Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake
technology,
of it.
I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes.
Because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Master Connector Show. I'm your co-host, Rob Genovesi. And listen, I hope you're tuning in every single week. We're coming at you every single Wednesday, live, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, bringing you amazing guests who bring their stories, their experiences, their skill sets, all to help you level up. This is the Master Connector Show. We want to connect you with amazing people. We want you to be able to, further your opportunity and do whatever you want to do by learning from others, connecting with others, creating a community, and uplifting one another. That's what the show is all about. And speaking of the show, we have a great sponsor of today's show. That's Russ Hedge Consulting. Look, over 30 years of sales and marketing success in multiple industries, Russ Hedge can help you be successful in your business by helping you truly connect, transform your business, connect to new customers, russhedge.com. Go check out our buddy Russ Hedge at russhedge.com. Let him help you transform your business. Thank you, Russ, for a wonderful sponsor of this show. And again, if you want to see what we got coming up, go to masterconnector.show. Check out the website. We are booked way out past the summer into 2025. Again, bringing you the best of the best. And we've got TEDx speakers. We got authors. We got people who are the tops in their fields. And they're coming here, taking their time to give you some of the wisdom, maybe some of the gaps in your knowledge that you don't really have, that you're trying to figure out because you want to make some strides. And, today's no different. We got an amazing guest today. But listen, my co-host Steve and I, we go back 26 years. Two guys who started out, two former shy guys, two introverts who clearly are not introverted anymore. I should say we're actually still introverted. It's an energy thing, but we're not shy anymore. We're both connectors. We're both always networking with people. We're bringing people together. And we know that you can't do what you want ultimately in life without the help of other people in some way, shape, or fashion. So help me bring him the Master Connector, Mr. Steve Spiro. What's up, Steve?
What's up, Robbie G? How you doing there, sir? Good to see you. I'll say this, for a long time, and I may have shared this with you, I thought the world would be great if it had no people in it. I think, because yeah, exactly. Life was simpler, right? And then I realized what you just said, right? Is we can't really accomplish much unless we have.
I became a graphic designer because I felt like I could hide behind the computer and not have to deal with the people.
Absolutely.
That was one of the reasons I did that. And look,
yeah.
That's due to my own insecurities and being very shy. But amazingly, I know you probably felt this way. Once we learned how to really connect and build relationships with people, it's changed the whole game of life.
Yeah. I know in the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, it talks about ABC, always be closing. To me, it's always be connecting, ABC, right? So always be connecting. But speaking of which, what's up, friends? What's going on? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And we are pumped today. So listen, if you're tuning in, whether it be the first time or you've been a veteran of the show, get in the comments, connect with each other. We don't know you're here unless you're in the comments. So get in there. Tell us what city, state, where you're tuning in from, the country. We also encourage you to connect with each other and make sure you build your community, because this is a great opportunity to do that. So, and also if you have questions as we roll through the show, we love participation. We believe in LinkedIn participants, not LinkedIn lurkers. So get in there and comment and so forth. And as talking about community members, Yolanda, what is up? We just appreciate you so much. Thank you for being such an incredible, loyal member of our community and of our show. So, but hey, I want to, we've all heard of the phrase, don't believe everything you hear, right? I mean, I'm a Bronx guy, skeptical, right? So don't believe everything you hear, right? But we're taking a little bit of a different twist than this, and it's going to be, don't believe everything you think. And that's going to be a very different twist here today, right? And listen, I've learned one of my favorite books is Master Key to Riches, talks about thoughts or things. The book and audio nailed Earl Nightingale, which is The Strangest Secret, which is an incredible book. It's what are you thinking about? And there's also this sometimes thoughts can just come into our mind, and you got to be very, very careful about the thoughts that come in your mind, and you got to choose those thoughts and what you're going to hold captive. There's a scripture that talks about how taking those thoughts captive, right? Because it really does matter. And what you're saying inside of your head to yourself, that script, that narrative, is super crucial for who and what you're going to eventually become. We all, we know that there's some real science on this with linguistics and NPLs and all these things that are NLPs. Dyslexic, right? Okay, I shouldn't even say that because it's the power of words, right? But that inner dialogue is so important, and a lot of times what we keep thinking and we keep rolling around in our brain sometimes will become fact. In fact, there's a study that shows if you actually can vividly imagine in your brain, your body reacts as if it really happens. So important, that inner dialogue, that story, what you actually allow your brain to think about. That's why I love audios and I love the ability to speak and self-talk, because you're controlling what's in your brain by what you're putting in, good or bad, right? So, and that will help you, once you do that the right way, create clarity and confidence, and it's a game changer from here. So I could go on and on, but I don't want to, because I really want to have our incredible guest to come on the show with us and share her perspective. But if you're ready, put it in the comments, #let's go. And Robbie G, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Yes, let's go. Listen, Lauren Fisher, our guest, is a certified health coach. She emphasizes a healthy and whole approach to wellness. Clients become mindful in all areas of their lives, most importantly, food and exercise. They learn to be, I love this, they learn to be CEOs of their own health by making decisions about sleep, managing stress, and choosing joy. They also learn self-care and meditation practices to discover the best version of themselves. Lauren has a certification from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, as well as the Nutritious Life community. She is on the board of Feast, a national nonprofit that provides support to individuals and families with a vision to provide access to the conditions that create health and wellness for all. She also teaches a 16-week health and nutrition curriculum for Feast to underserved communities in Los Angeles. Please welcome to the show, Lauren Fisher. What's up, Lauren?
Hi, thanks for having me, you guys.
Thanks for coming. Good to have you.
Great to have you here.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, we're pumped to have you on the show here. So, yeah, it has been a wild journey. I know. I'm sure you see I put posts every week, and it's been great. Give our community an opportunity to kind of get a little flavor for what's coming today. So we're pumped. So I want to dive into stress. I know that's a big part of what you speak about. So community, type in #stress. So how can shifting our perspective on stress help us live a healthier life and a more balanced life?
Yeah, good question. Well, I would say this. First, stress is really just what you think about, right? So some people will say, I have a really stressful job, right? But other people that have that same job don't necessarily consider it stressful, right? So I think it's really important to pay attention to what you think about and what feels stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting also, what I want to say, and Robbie, I don't know, it looks like if you want to come on and say something too, but what happens is what we give life to, right? Even if it is stressful, by just saying that, you're validating to your own brain, it is stressful. Whereas you could actually say something that kind of, offsets that. Maybe you could say something like, I'm feeling stressed, but I'm starting to feel better, or something that kind of flips the script, if you will, So,
Yeah,
Rob J?
I mean, on the subject of stress, maybe you can shed some light on this, Lauren, because mental health and keeping ourselves in a peak state of mind, whatever that means to a person. I understand that people have different challenges when it comes to their mental state of health, but when I think of stress, the stress that I've experienced in my life, the really bad stress, and I'm just kind of, this is my perspective. You correct me if I'm wrong. The bad stress came when I felt like I was out of control. Like when I worked in corporate, a lot of the stress was due to the frustrations, the things that were imposed upon me. And working for myself for a bunch of years now, and having things in my life that are positive are also creating stress. Can you tell us the difference there, if I'm on point with that?
Can you clarify what you mean, the difference between
maybe good stress and bad stress?
Well, good stress and bad stress.
I don't know. Sometimes it seems that way because, like, the good things that happen in my life, sometimes there's stress associated with it, but it doesn't feel like the gnawing ulcerative type that I had when I was in corporate. Maybe it was just the job.
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, most things are out of our control, right? Like everyone's going to be exactly as they are, regardless of our opinion of that thing, right? So I guess from my perspective, the better we take care of ourselves, right? So really simply sleep, good food, exercise, right? Having fun, joy, all that kind of stuff. I think that helps us to then manage how we feel about certain things, right? Like if you're exhausted, then your anxiety is going to go sort of through the roof if you get an email from someone asking you for something that you're not sure you can give them. Whereas if you can sort of take a step back and just breathe and just realize that like, oh, that person's just doing their job, it becomes a lot easier, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Thank
I'm,
you.
I'm gonna kind of go take it a little bit step further. Maybe Rob, this is what you're speaking about. Maybe not. If not, hopefully it'll bring value here. But I've heard that there's the comfort zone, there's the stretch zone, and then there's the stress zone. And what I feel like what you're saying is the stress and the stretch. And sometimes there's a stretch zone, which is where there's some stress there, but it's not overly stressed and it actually gets you to stretch yourself and be better. Whereas with the stress situation, sometimes it can be toxic and hurt you. And so I've experienced that in my life, right? Sometimes those hard situations can push us to the next level. There may be some stress there, but they push us. Where sometimes stress, the real stressful stuff can really, paralyze us. So I'm not sure if that helps, but that was my take on what you said.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, before the show, we were talking about weightlifting, Rob, right? And
Yeah.
the thing about weightlifting is like we actually have to tear the muscle to build
Right.
it, right? So we are resilient as humans, right? And
Yeah.
so we do grow in times of discomfort, right? But recognizing what we're capable of, I think
Sure.
helps us to manage it better.
100%. And speaking of which, right, I know a big part of what you speak about is on, mental health. So want to dive into that a little bit more as we're kind of getting in this conversation, right? So community, type in hashtag mental health, right? I know that's not one word, but we're going to make it one word, right? Why is it critical to prioritize mental health alongside physical health in today's fast-paced world?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I go back to, growing up, I'm not sure that I thought that I could manage my mental health, right? Like a lot of what I thought about was I thought in my mind it was actually true, right? And so when we realize that taking care of our mental health and our physical health helps us to feel better, then I think everything just flows, right? So when I say taking care of our mental health, what I mean is sleeping, meditating, journaling, paying attention to what comes up in the mind, right? And realizing that a lot of times that's just a program, right? So about 80% of our thoughts repeat from the day before, and a lot of them are negative, right? Because our mind's job is to keep us safe. So it's sort of running around solving problems at any given day, and most of them aren't real.
I want to dive into something you said, Lauren, because you tucked it in there so neatly. And I think it's sometimes very controversial, and that's sleep. When I was coming up through learning some business ropes, I was around some pretty hardcore people. And, someone would say, you sleep when you die, you only need 4 hours really to be peak. And I wrestled with that when I was not as kind of in tune with my own self. I bought into that and I tried it and it didn't work for me. And I believe that everybody is different and maybe they have different levels of optimal sleep. Maybe. What I do know is this about me: 7 hours. If I get 6, I'm not good. Anything less, I am completely incapacitated. I get headaches. But for some people, 7 hours, that's way too much. You don't need that much. You're wasting the day. Talk to us about the importance of sleep and that mental health.
Yeah, sure. That's one of my favorite conversations. Same thing, like coming up through publishing, we used to walk around saying sleep when you're dead, for sure. The science says we need about between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. So that's number one. Number two is our bodies are timed to circadian rhythm, which means we're meant to go to sleep with the sun and wake up with the sun. So I don't necessarily suggest that people do that, but the closer we get to going to sleep with the sun and waking up with the sun, the better our body functions, right? So it's really, really important. Do you guys know why they call it midnight?
No, why?
Oh, I know you're going to tell us.
Yeah,
Please.
'cause it's the middle of the night.
Oh, you
So-
mean I shouldn't stop working at midnight and then go to sleep?
Probably not, right? So
Yeah.
deep sleep is what happens earlier in the night, right? Closer to when the sun goes down. So
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
deep sleep is actually what hits save on the memories, right?
Yeah.
So we need a certain amount of deep sleep in order to function and feel happy, healthy, and whole. So yeah, I mean the science is 7 to 9.
So
And
listen, I want to just throw in this. Rob knows I'm still around those circles he was referring to, and you'll be happy to know, Rob, that mentality has shifted.
Oh,
The
good.
gentleman you're speaking about in particular, who was both of our mentors at one point, he's shifted. Now he's big in the gym, and he's got a personal trainer that's telling him that sleep is important, enough hydration is important, and he's so it's shifted. So you'll be happy to know that. But anyway.
That's good.
Yeah. But a big part of the show, obviously, right? Don't believe what you think, right? Is thoughts. So let's talk about thoughts a bit here. So community, type in hashtag thoughts. And yeah, please, if you have any questions for Lauren, please put in the comments. I do want to acknowledge before you get to that, Yolanda had some pretty cool points. Some people are naturally more resilient, adapted to stress, while others are more sensitive and easily overwhelmed. Very good point. I'm sure you've seen that, and I've seen that. She's talking about sleep deprivation, which can significantly impact your overall well-being. Absolutely. And welcome to the show. Sam is on here as well. What about those who work night shifts? What sleeping patterns do you recommend? So we'll get to that in a minute. And then, of course, Yolanda, she was mentioning about the middle of the night. She likes that, which we do as well. So, but yeah, maybe you can answer that question that Samuel has, and then get into the idea of thoughts, if you would, Lauren.
Yeah, sure. I mean, what I would say about, working the night shift is do the best you can. I mean, the closer you get to 7 hours, the healthier you're going to feel. Obviously, some people can't go to sleep with the sun and wake up with the sun, right? Like if we think about it, our bodies haven't actually been, our systems haven't been, overhauled since the caveman. So we're the same, and we have devices and all sorts of ways to stay up late. But, he slept in a cold, dark cave and went to sleep with the sun because he had no electricity. So,
Yeah. What are your thoughts about the lights, the lamps that have like the actual daylight and all that? I mean, for someone in his situation where he may be working midnights and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say is like you want to just get as close to darkness as possible. I mean, everyone knows that screens obviously are blue light, which simulate daylight. So we want to stay away from screens as close as possible to bedtime, right? So it's just controlling the controllables, right? You want to try for darkness and the simulation of night to the best of your ability.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about thoughts now, right? So what's the roles of thoughts play in sleep in shaping the reality we expect or experience daily?
Wait, did you say thoughts play in sleep or?
No, I'm sorry. I was I typoed there, right? So what role do our thoughts play in shaping the reality we experience daily?
Well, so quite simply, I think most people believe everything they think, right? So if you think your boss is out to get you or your boss wants you fired, right, then you might be acting in accordance with that thought, right? And most of our thoughts are not true, right? And as I said, they loop, right? So we have to be really careful what we think about. And a lot of it has to do with how we grew up. The things that people said to us when we were young are often the things that we say to ourselves when we're older without realizing it, right? A lot of my clients will say things to me like, I'm lazy or I'm undisciplined, right? And that's not generally true. But if they heard that when they were young in school, right, when it came to studying, right, then they think that about themselves, right? So, I don't necessarily think we grew up with a great sense of self, right? Yeah. I know our parents did the best they could, but a lot of it was about the optics, right? What other people thought, right?
And I think that's like what you're saying is their parents did the best who they could.
Yeah.
with the way they thought, the way they were programmed essentially. And so,
Yeah.
growing up as a child, you tend to accept things blindly because, well, they're your parents, right? They're adults, so they know everything. That's what you think. And I
Yeah.
think one of the most valuable things, because look, I know I meet people all the time that are in their 50s and 60s, and they still have these thoughts. And I'm going, I'm thinking, what are you thinking? Like, do you ever challenge a thought? And that's something I heard from Stage a long time ago, to your point, Lauren, is he said, think about what you're thinking about.
Yep.
Steve said it earlier, captivate the thought. And so one thing that was tremendous in my journey was learning, why do I think that? Like
Yeah.
when I think
Question everything.
something, I go, well, why do I think that? And does that hold true for me? Is it true? Number one, if it's true, right? There's only one true truth. The truth is the truth. But if it's not, if it's just something that sounds good, challenge it. And I've taught my kids, challenge what you're thinking, challenge what you hear. Don't be argumentative. But if somebody says something and it sounds good, go check it out. Like, go look it up. Go talk to people who are experts in the field and find out if that actually holds water. So I love that point, Lauren.
Yeah, definitely. Question everything, for sure. Yeah. Like when we were young, we had to finish the food on our plate, right? And most of the reason that we had to finish the food was because someone was starving in another country, right?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure that makes a ton of sense, right? And we were overriding our bodies. So, yeah.
I'm Italian. I grew up that way. It was like, you eat everything. And look, when you're Italian, there's a lot of food on the plate and there's a lot of food on the table. And I'm like, but I'm full. Well, you can't be full. There's still food there. And so, as I grew up, I'm like, sometimes I leave food on the plate and people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm done.
So I was on the opposite, not to share our dirty laundry here, but we grew up so broke. So I think Rob has probably been out with me a few times when we've gone to the diner, and I'll eat chicken wings. And I know, Lauren, as a health person, you probably are appalled by this, but I'll actually eat the nubs of the bones because I grew up with so little food. Like, I'm just programmed to eat everything because I don't know when the next meal is going to come.
Yeah, but now you do, right?
I do now. Yeah,
but you're
I gotta
still
break that habit.
Yeah, so that's an old habit, right?
Yeah, it is an old habit. It's time to break it. Anyway, I want to bring up Yolanda brings up something here. I think, and I've thought to myself out of happiness 1 million times, but never once into it. Interesting. Okay, something to ponder there, Yolanda. Great stuff. All right, let's move on. I know we talked about you being a big health person. So let's talk hashtag health. And if you want to comment on what she just said, you're happy, you can go whatever direction you want. But I want to just steer this a little bit. So let's talk about health. And the question is, and again, you can go back to the other point if you want, but why does good health often become our sole focus only when we lose it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Humans make change when they're in pain.
Yeah.
They don't generally make changes when they're not in pain. That's just how we're wired.
Yeah.
So people tend to, you've heard me say it, like a healthy person wants a lot of things and a sick person wants one thing. When people are focused on their health, then they're willing to make the changes, right? I mean, people always say to me, like, do I have to make a lot of sacrifices if I want to get healthier? And my answer is, you know what it's called if you don't make sacrifices? Change without sacrifices. It's basically called magic, right? The answer is yes. And so we don't necessarily like to do that, right? People are really, we're in like the world of quick fixes right now.
But like being an adult, right? Like, because like you have to sacrifice as an adult. Like if you're a child, you pretty much you can demand and try to get whatever you want because you want it. But being an adult is you got to sacrifice. You got to do things that maybe you don't always want to. I don't think for most of us, we want to go to 9 to 5 work if we had a choice to, right? But we need to. It's our sacrifice. We have to, right? It's unless you're like one of those few people that love what they do and they never work a day in their life. And I know that there's people out there that have that, but very few. So anyway, my 2 cents. All right, we're winding down here. So last point here on resilience. I love this topic because I speak a lot about resilience and grit and just grinding through, right? So community, type in hashtag resilience. And here's the last question as we wind down. What are some practical strategies that we can use to challenge negative thoughts and build mental resilience?
Oh, so I'm sorry, you're asking me.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I think meditation is probably the best because when we slow down and we start to pay attention to our thoughts, like in other words, I would say to like watch your thoughts as if you're watching the traffic, but not necessarily to run in the traffic, right? Once we become aware of how we think, then we have the ability to change and rewire the way that we think about things.
Sure. Love that. Okay. It's great.
Yeah, the topic of resilience, I mean, and you're talking about meditation, Lauren, and I don't know that I've ever meditated outside of maybe somebody's given me a lesson or brought me through it in a formal way. But is meditation, I think, what most people think? Do I have to sit there in the lotus position in a quiet room in the center where there's nothing else in there but a plant in the corner, and for an hour think about nothing? Like, is that what it is? Because I think a lot of people think that that's the chore they have to endure.
Yeah. The quick answer to that is no. You don't have to do any of those things, but you do have to be still and pay attention to your thoughts without attaching to them. It doesn't need to be an hour. It doesn't need to be in the lotus position. There doesn't need to be a plant. People say like, yeah, it doesn't need to be that. I mean, people say, I struggle to be with myself, right? And the answer to that is, if you struggle to be with yourself for 10 minutes, how do you expect anyone else to? Right? Like it is working on the relationship that we have with ourselves when we're by ourselves, which is the most important one. So, we start small, right? We don't try an hour in lotus position, but we can try for 5 minutes just to take a couple breaths and to watch the thoughts and not necessarily attach to them.
I want to add something into that. Maybe it's going to help somebody, because I do know, because you speak to people and they think, oh, I don't have time to meditate. And I'm thinking, again, I'm not a meditator, but in a way I do, because especially because I work from home. I run my own business. It's mostly all on me. And, going unchecked, I could easily wake up and keep working all day. Now, I happen to love what I do, right? So it never feels like work, but still we have to balance out our lives. We have to pay attention. I can't just be, toiling away, so to speak. So I do remind myself to go outside, usually when it's nicer, and just walk around my yard and notice the trees. And this sounds really woo-woo to some people. I'm kind of a woo-woo guy, and it doesn't come across that way, but I'll watch the trees sway. I'll watch the birds. I'll close my eyes and I'll just feel the breeze on me, feel the sunshine. Is that meditation, or am I just taking time out? Like, I would say that I do. I don't know if it falls under the definition, but would that help somebody to just, hey, look, take a break and go outside and walk around and, just maybe think about what you're thinking about, or maybe just notice nature? Would that qualify?
I mean, I wouldn't say that qualifies as meditation, right? But if you think about it, the mind does two things. It goes into the future, which is worry, and it goes into the past, which is regret. Both, right? No amount of worry is going to change the future. No amount of regret is going to change the past, right? Mm-hmm. And what both do is take us out of the present. So, Rob, what you're talking about is being aware of the present moment, which is really important, which is the purpose of meditation. So what you're talking about isn't meditation, but it is presence.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, listen, this has been great, Lauren. I know you have something you want to share with the community and offer for them. Would you tell them a little bit about what you're giving as a gift to our audience, our community?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do complimentary calls to discuss health goals. So in that call, what I do is I talk about your health goals. I'll talk about the inhibitors, what's been holding you back from getting what you want in your health. And I'll talk to you a little bit about what I do. And if you want any help, I'm here.
And absolutely. And what's the best way that you'd love for this community, our community, to reach out and connect with you?
I mean, I have a website, which is laurenfisherhealthcoaching.com, but I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So feel free to DM me on there.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we really appreciate you. We're going to have you go into the green room, but thank you for blessing our community. And it was great having you on here. Appreciate you. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, hey, great stuff. Listen, as Rob said, right, tune in every week, Wednesday at 1 p.m. EST, because we are here with amazing guests. So next week, February 5th, The ideas that will make an impact with Jeremy Jones. You don't want to miss Jeremy. He is another amazing guest. And again, if you're interested in learning and seeing what some of the next shows up and coming, go to masterconnector.show. We also want to be interested in being a sponsor, like we saw Russ Hedge was a sponsor this show. Go to masterconnector.show and you can learn all about that. But I want to finish up with a story. I love telling quick stories. You know, we all know, or a lot of us know, about Arianna Huffington, right? Once believed that relentless hard work and overextension were the keys to success. Kind of what we're talking about before, right? Lose sleep, whatever. Until she collapsed from exhaustion in her office. That wake-up call led her to reevaluate her thinking about about productivity and well-being, realizing that her health and mental clarity were far more valuable than nonstop work. By challenging her own limiting beliefs, she transformed her life and launched Thrive Global, empowering millions to prioritize wellness and mindfulness over burnout. So here's the deal, right? Let's make sure to challenge our limiting beliefs so that we can transform our life and be an inspiration to others and ultimately shine our light. God bless you guys. See you soon.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives